これまでの遠回りも全部お前に出会うためのものだったんだな。
Hotel. The transition from spring to summer feels like gently rubbing a sheet of window paper with damp fingertips as moisture gradually seeps through, softening the delicate barrier. Between seasons. By the time one truly becomes aware, the weather has already heated up to the point where even with the fan on, it still feels suffocating. In summary, the defendant is a first-time offender in this criminal activity with a low degree of subjective malice and shows a good attitude toward admitting wrongdoing after being apprehended. And next, you wonder if it's because you're not used to the climate here or if it's because you're waiting for a call that usually comes around this time. You find yourself stuck at a closing argument which usually comes easily to you. I wonder if his performance went smoothly. As if sensing something, your phone suddenly vibrates.
もしもし、聞こえてるか？
On the other end of the line are screams and music, although you've gotten accustomed to it lately, being alone in a room where you could hear a pin drop still evokes a sense of strangeness. You look, have you finished your performance?
まあな、ちょっと待ってくれるか。ステージの方がかなり盛り上がってるみたいで。
Luke seems to have just come off stage. His words sound slightly breathless. Just as he tries to catch his breath, a huge cheer erupts from the direction of the stage, completely drowning out his words.
夏彦、やっぱここで電話してたか。みんなアンコールを待ってるぜ。ドラマーのお前がいなきゃ始まらないだろう。
Amid the noisy background, it's nearly impossible to tell that it's his university classmate Sammy Lee talking to him. Through the phone, even with some distance, the teasing from the other side comes through clearly, causing you to grip your phone tightly. Ah, are you going back on stage? Should I call you later?
いや、このままでいい。今こうして電話をしたのは、お前にもライブの空気を感じてほしかったからだ。仕事で来れないって言うなら、ステージを丸ごとそっちに送るしかないだろう。
What do you mean? After a rustling sound, you hear Luke whispering something to someone. He's probably handing off his phone to someone else.
準備完了。
He must have run back to the stage, and the overwhelming cheers come through the receiver, making your heartbeat quicken a few beats. Even though you can't see the scene, when the deep drum beats sound, you close your eyes and feel as if you've been taken back to a month ago. Live Music Club.
やっぱエフェメラルって最高。どの曲も良すぎでしょ。
だよなだよな。俺なんて好きすぎて首都からずっとツアーを追ってるよ。
ってことはツアーの初日から追ってきてるの？大ファンじゃん。
まあね。個人的な旅行も兼ねてだけど、最終日のポートタウンまで全通するつもりだよ。
The audience nearby continues to chatter excitedly. Even though the music is loud, it is still unable to drown out their enthusiasm.
どうだ？気に入ってくれたか？
Luke recently wrapped up a mission and is finally starting his long-awaited break. On the first night of his vacation, he takes you to a live house to see a band called Ephemeral. You didn't know much about them at first, but hearing the excited chatter around you, you learned that this band has been rapidly gaining popularity. Now that they've built up some fame, they are embarking on their first national tour, and Stellis is only their second stop. I like it! Even though I don't go to live shows often, I feel that the atmosphere and immersion of this experience are just amazing. I like it! Although I often attend live shows, the atmosphere and immersion of each one are uniquely special.
お前ならそう言ってくれると思ったよ。
Luke leans closer with a smile, subtly shielding you from the crowd stirred up by the music.
今夜のラストソングはファーストアルバムのリード曲スプリングナイトだ。最後の最後まで一緒に盛り上がっていこうぜ。
The lead singer's voice reverberates through the microphone as if dropping a boulder into boiling oil, igniting a wave of excitement within you. The drum beat intensifies, merging with the electrifying strum of the guitar. Just as the atmosphere reaches its peak, an unexpected discord disrupts the rhythm, fracturing the moment. Huh? Did the drummer just make a mistake? Even though you've probably never heard this song before, you could tell that the rhythm was a bit off. Thankfully, it was quickly masked and the performance continued.
ああ、ドラムのミスだな。スティックを持つ手が変だったし、多分腱鞘炎か何かでうまく操作できなかったんだろう。
I didn't realize Luke knew so much about drums. The show ends smoothly and the crowd begins to disperse, though the excitement still ripples through them.
はあ、もう終わっちゃった。でも、動画は無事に撮れたことだし、後でゆっくり見返そうっと。
まさか全部撮れたのか？いいなあ。こっちはいくつも撮り損ねちゃったよ。
Everyone is buzzing about the performance, and you can still feel your heart racing wildly. It felt like the performance was so short, I didn't even get a chance to fully enjoy it. Luke glances at his phone briefly before looking back at you, a mysterious smile on his face.
なら、エフェメラルのメンバーに会ってみるか？
Huh? Really? After watching their performance, you can't help but feel a bit excited.
ああ、お前がそうしたいならな。案内してやるからはぐれるなよ。
Music room. So, you were actually in the same university as the members of Ephemeral?
まあな、ボーカルの河野が大学の同級生で、他のメンバーも同じ大学の後輩だよ。
You follow Luke to a studio that Ephemeral has temporarily rented in Salis. It's only upon arrival that he finally reveals the story behind it all.
おいおい、知り合いとか同級生とか、ずいぶんとよそよそしいな。
A man wearing exaggerated stitch makeup naturally joins the conversation. It's Sammy Lee, the lead singer that Luke just mentioned.
夏彦、久しぶりだな。今日は来ねえと思ってたよ。
ちょうど仕事が片付いて時間ができたからな。
After they greet each other with a hug, Luke introduced you to him.
よ、はじめまして。河野真澄だ。エフェメラルのボーカルをやってる。たった2人しかいない初期メンバーのうちの1人だ。
There were two. As you exchange a brief greeting with Sammy, you can't help but notice that his words seem to hint at something else.
聞いてないのか？エフェメラルのもう一人の初期メンバーは、夏彦だぜ。
What?
相変わらず大げさだな。大学時代にバンドを組みたくなって、俺がみんなに声をかけたんだ。 でも、ようやく形になってきた頃に、学業のせいでやめなきゃいけなくなって。
Luke doesn't mention his work with NSB in front of Sammy.
だから、最初にほんのちょっと関わってた程度で、初期メンバーとは呼べないだろう。
何言ってんだよ。そもそもバンド名だってお前が考えたもんだろ。
What position did you have in the band back then?
ドラムだよ。
No wonder Luke instantly recognized the drummer's tendinitis earlier, but why hasn't he mentioned this part of his pulse? Since the other band members aren't close to Luke, they just offer a quick greeting before heading off. Noticing Luke's gaze still lingering on the drum set, Sammy picks up the drumsticks and hands them to him.
ドラム、まだ続けてんのか？
Luke lowers his gaze. Just as you think he's going to take the drumsticks, he simply shakes his head.
あのライブでヘルプに入って以来、一度も触ってないよ。仕事が忙しすぎてそれどころじゃなくてな。
わかるぜ。音楽をやるってのは贅沢なことだからな。
The conversation takes on a slightly realistic and heavy tone, and you can hear a faint hint of regret in Luke's words. He never brings this up, perhaps because there's rarely a fitting moment, or maybe because he feels a bit of reluctance about giving up drumming. When old classmates reunite, there are always plenty of old stories to share. Since these are related to Luke's university days, you listen with great interest. As you two are about to leave, Sammy tells you that they'll be staying in Sally's for a while and welcomes you to visit anytime. As the night gradually deepens, you both finally say your goodbyes and head home. Home. Luke. You step out of the steaming bathroom and see Luke leaning against the windowsill, holding a tablet with a serious look on his face.
早いな。もう上がったのか。
What are you looking at? In the dim yellow light, his profile is softly illuminated by the cool blue glow of the tablet, casting a hint of wistfulness across his features. As you walk over, he wraps his long arm around you and pulls you toward his chest, resting his head on your shoulder and holding you close.
河野が昔のライブの動画を送ってくれたんだ。
Is it that emergency performance from before? They mention it once while making small talk, and you have some impression of it.
何年も前のやつだけどな。確か、お前が仕事を始めた頃と同じくらいのじゃないか。懐かしいな。仕事でたまたまポートタウンに来たら、河野たちもそこでライブを開いてて、当時はまだ無名の弱小バンドだったから、商業公演をするだけでも一苦労だったみたいでさ。
You've also been to Shelport for work before. It's a city that's developed almost as much as the capital and style is. Having a commercial gig there definitely helped boost Ephemeral's visibility.
なのに、運悪くドラマーの腱鞘炎が再発して、スティックすらまともに握れない状態になっちまったんだ。で、他の人に頼むくらいならって河野に頼まれて、急遽ヘルプに入ることになって。
Luke hits the play button, and the familiar melody instantly fills the room. It's Spring Night, the song you just listened to not long ago. Maybe because you've just heard it recently, even though this version has slightly different arrangements, you still feel a sense of familiarity. The drums are usually placed far back, and this video is from quite a while ago, so it's hard to make out the drummer's expression. But for some reason, you instinctively know that he must be smiling. Perhaps it's from the perfectly synchronized rhythm, or maybe just from the way Luke is holding you. Luke, why did you decide to learn the drums?
ど どうしてたと思う？
His hair softly rests against your neck, carrying a hint of playful, almost coquettish feeling. Though you two have been living together, it still makes one tempted to know just how well the other party understands oneself. And now you're faced a tricky question like this. I've never played the drums, so I can only talk about my feelings. To me, playing the drums requires complete focus, not just mental strength but also physical endurance. Every beat requires full attention, there's no room for distraction. But then, you must have needed moments like that, right? A time to completely relax and not think about anything else. Coming to a new environment and encountering so many new things, even Luke at that age must have moments when he feels completely out of place. Maybe playing the drums is like a sanctuary for him, a place where he can immerse himself completely and temporarily shut everything else out.
ほんと、お前には全部筒抜けだな。
What was that? I was clearly asking you, why aren't you the one giving an answer? You turn around and rub your arms around Luke's neck, pretending to be a little unhappy. He quickly surrenders.
いや、特に理由はないよ。急に知らない土地に放り込まれたら、いろいろと悩むこともあるだろ。そんな時にリラックスできる趣味があれば、少しは気が紛れるかなって思ったんだ。
Luke shakes his head slightly and tightens his hold around your waist. You immediately lean back into his arms. He lowers his head. In his eyes, there's not a little smile but a trace of wistfulness. So, when did you meet Sammy?
出会ったのも目をつけられたのも、ドラムを学び始めてすぐだよ。で、いろいろ苦労して、二人でエフェメラルを結成したのに、その後、すぐ調査庁に入ることが決まっちまってさ。結局、河野は一人でバンドを続けるしかなくて、それ以来、あいつには悪いことをしたってずっと思ってたんだ。
So that's why you agreed to step in for the emergency gig, right?
それもあるけど、当時は学業と調査庁の二足のわらじで忙しくて、一度も練習ができなかっただろ。だから、自分のレベルがどれだけ落ちたのか、確かめてみたくなったんだ。
Luke. You raise your hand and gently brush the straight hair falling over his forehead, allowing you to see him more clearly. Do you still want to play the drums? Luke nods, his pupils bright. You remember when you were kids, you both looked at the night sky together, and he discovered a star that he had never seen before. He excitedly called you to look with him, and the expression on his face at that moment was just like this. He found another star that made his heart race, and naturally, you did your best to accompany him in searching and getting closer to it. Then, go ahead and do it. I'd love to see what you look like when you're playing the drums. Not through a screen, but experiencing it live, in person. Besides, since Sammy sent you this video, he must have other intentions. After all, you're someone who's really easy to soften up. Maybe he's asking something of you. Luke is amused by your deliberately mysterious tone. Just as you are talking, he received a text from Sammy.
噂をすればなんとやら、だな。明日二人でスタジオに来てくれってさ。
Music room. Since the band's job is to make the nights lively, the studio is very quiet during the day. Seeing you both, Sammy also puts on a brave face and comes over to greet you.
おう、急に悪いな。昨日の夜はずっと病院にいたから、あんまり寝られなくてよ。
それはいいけど、なんで病院なんだ？まさか。
お察しの通り、うちのドラマーの腱鞘炎がかなりひどくてよ。
やっぱりそうか。昨日もステージ上で辛そうだったもんな。
そうなんだよ。ステージから降りた瞬間にスティックを落として、すぐスタッフが応急処置をしたけど、結局は夕べのうちに病院に運ばれて、今は痛み止めでどうにか抑えてる状態だ。あれじゃしばらくドラムは無理だな。
そんなにひどい状態だったのか。
ああ、まったく悪い予感ほどよく当たるよな。5日後に次の公演があるったのに。
Originally looking a bit worried, Sammy's expression grows increasingly serious, and the last trace of his usual carefree attitude fades away.
悪い。最後にヘルプに入ってもらった時、もう二度と迷惑かけねえって約束したのに、また破ることになりそうだ。
気にすんな。エフェメラルのためにも、親友のお前のためにも、これくらいお安い御用だ。ただ、今と昔じゃ状況が違う。俺はもう長いことドラムに触ってないし、この状態でどこまでやれるか。
いや、その言葉だけでも嬉しいさ。ドラムの腕は確かに見てみないと何とも言えないけどな。じゃあ、どれだけ体が覚えてるか、早速試してみるか。
Sammy hands over the drumsticks again, but Luke still seems hesitant, glancing back at you. You don't know what's on his mind, but you trust that he'll follow his heart and make the choice he won't regret. After a brief hesitation, Luke smiles and takes the drumstick.
そうだな。試してみるか。
Music room. In the studio, the only sound you can hear is the quiet hum of the ventilation system. Luke sits down behind the drum set, adjusts the seat height and distance, rolls his neck a bit, and makes sure his headphones are on. With these preparations done, he raises the drumsticks but pauses mid-air, holding them there.
焦らなくていいからな。基本的なテクを覚えてるかどうかだけ見せてくれ。なんなら一番簡単なリズムパターンからやってみたらどうだ？
あんまり俺を見くびるなよ。
With a serious expression, Luke glances at Sammy in response to the teasing.
スプリングナイトくらいならまだ覚えてるぞ。
Luke begins with a few bass drum beats, his movements careful, almost a bit too cautious. He seems a bit tense, and Sammy, standing nearby, frowns as he picks up on this. This isn't his usual seat. Luke rotates his wrists.
おいおい、前のライブの時は全然緊張してなかったのに、どうしたってんだ？
慌てるなよ。ただのアップだって。
Sammy's teasing helps him relax a bit, and he finally cracks a smile.
ようやくちょっと感覚が戻ってきたとこだ。
He does a flashy move as he spins the drumstick and continues playing the drums smoothly. At this moment, the rhythm and pace of the world are all under his control. Before you even realize it, you start swaying to his rhythm. Strange. Yesterday, when Luke played the video, you already felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Now, experiencing it in person, the strange feeling of deja vu only grows stronger. You have a vague feeling that yesterday's performance wasn't the first time you've heard this song. Outside the music room. Noticing Luke getting engrossed, Sammy gestures to you, signaling you to follow him into the hallway.
あいつが叩いてるとこ、初めて見るだろ。
Sammy leans against the wall, but his gaze remains fixed on Luke behind the glass door, his eyes full of undisguised admiration. Yes, although I know he's quick to learn and excels at everything, I didn't expect him to be so good at drumming.
俺も昔はドラムを触ってたから、一通りのことは知ってるし。
You nod, not wanting to interrupt Sammy's words.
それなりに長く続けてたから賞をもらったこともある。けど、初めてあいつの演奏を聞いた瞬間、自分にはドラムの才能がないってはっきり分かったよ。あれでほとんど叩いたことがないってんだから、正直嫉妬したね。けど、妬んでたって何も始まらない。それよりも、こいつをプロの世界に連れてかなきゃって、そう思ってエフェメラルの結成を持ちかけたんだ。
Luke picks up speed again, pushing the tempo even tighter as he attempts more complex rhythms.
バンドを抜けるって決めたこと、俺は尊重してるんだ。でも、あいつは変に罪悪感を抱えてる。だからこそ、あのライブでヘルプを頼んだんだけどな。
Was that performance held in a big plaza? At that time, it must have been late spring. Spring Night was your last song, wasn't it? Since Sammy brought it up, you take the opportunity to confirm this growing sense of familiarity.
その通りだけど、なんで知ってるんだ？スプリングナイトはプロになって初めてのライブで締めの曲として演奏したんだ。それ以降、ライブのラストはいつも同じ曲を選んでる。
You struggle to hide your surprise but can't help holding your breath at the coincidence. You were there at the show where Luke performed. You had just started working and you were in Shelport on a business trip with colleagues from the law firm. You had been passing by when the music drew you in and you stopped to listen. There was a big crowd and you couldn't see the stage before the song ended. It was such a small event, and if you hadn't heard Luke's live performance again, you'd probably never notice.
どうかしたか？
Nothing. Go on. You shake your head. Although it's a bit of a coincidence, it doesn't seem necessary to bring it up with Luke. It will only add a sense of regret.
とまあ、こんだけ話したら、もう俺の目的も分かったよな。控えのドラマーとしてツアーに参加するよう、あんたからもあいつに言ってほしいんだ。
You don't need to worry about that. As long as it's something Luke wants to do, I'll fully support him.
さっきから影でこそこそ何を話してるんだ？
At some point, Luke comes up behind you two, holding his drumstick. He peeks his head around the glass door, breathing heavily. He has probably just stopped his practice. Oh, just talking about your university days. You know I love hearing those stories. You don't explain Sammy's true intention as you wish to leave the decision to Luke.
そうそう。やっぱお前みたいな才能あるやつがドラムをやめちまうのはもったいないって話だ。さっきの演奏を見て確信したよ。お前、まだドラムが好きなんだろ？なあ、また音楽の道に戻ろうぜ。でもって、俺たちのこともちょっと助けてくれよ。
何がちょっとだよ。自分たちのツアーの規模分かってんのか？
Luke twirls his drumstick in his hands. In that brief moment, he seems like someone you're not as familiar with. It's hard to imagine, even though you two been childhood friends and now spending every day together, there's still a side of him you've never seen.
さっきの曲、一応譜面通りにはできたけど、まだ問題は残ってる。体力面でも技術面でも、 とても控えになれるレベルじゃない。
それは俺もわかってる。あれからずっと触ってなかったんだ。仕方ねえよ。けど大丈夫だ。ひとまず5日後の公演を乗り越えれば、その後は調整する時間もたっぷりある。今回のステージの後は完全に控えとしていてくれればいいし、毎回出演してくれなくてもいい。それから、
Sammy pauses, his twin tinged with a bit of teasing.
彼女ちゃんの前だからってあんまカッコつけなくていいぞ。俺が気づいてないとでも思ってんのか？
あ、
Luke seems to have just had his weakness exposed at the mention of you. Though his face remains calm, his ears have gone a little red. You do look really cool when you're playing the drums. You don't want to speak for Sammy initially, but thinking of how Luke was behaving earlier, you decide to add a line out of personal interest.
どうだ？気持ちは固まったか？まあ、初期のメインメンバーに控えを頼むなんて、俺も悪いとは思ってるけどな。
たく。俺が断れなくなるのを分かっててその話をしてるだろ
Luke sounds a little defeated, but he's smiling with great ease. Looking at him, a thought suddenly comes to your mind. Home.
う。ライブツアーについていきたい？
You stay with Luke while he practices until evening, and only then do you head home. While he is going over the specific tour schedule, you share your thoughts. Well, I finished my work, and I was planning to take a break for a while. The idea actually comes from a fan sitting next to you at a previous show, and it just so happens that you've been saving your vacation days to match Luke's time off. When you need to perform, I'll be your most loyal fan. And when you don't, we can treat it as a vacation and watch free performances.
そりゃもちろん嬉しいけど、事務所の方は大丈夫なのか？
I'll ask Celestine for a leave right now. You immediately take out your phone. Just as you are about to call Celestine, she calls you first. Hello, Celestine. What's up?
お疲れ様。急で悪いけど、あなたが今担当している案件ってもうすぐ終わる頃だったわよね。
Yes.
実はさっき新しい依頼が入ってスケジュールを確認したところ、あなたが適任みたいなんだけど。
Is that so?
どうかした？
No, please continue. Originally, you can't bring yourself to ask for time off, but Luke notices the change in your expression and naturally comes closer. He didn't do much, but the anxiety you feel from the sudden news eases a lot.
それで、先方がすぐにでも会いたいって言ってるから、プレーンサウス行きの航空券を手配させてもらったわ。詳しい資料も送ってあるから、飛行機でゆっくり確認しておいて。
Celestine seems to be in a conference room. Faint echoes can be heard in the background, accompanied by a tone that leaves no room for doubt. Tom waits for no one. After briefly confirming the flight details with Celestine, you end the call.
どうした？何か問題でもあったか？
Yes, there's an urgent commission in Pinion that requires me to go right now. I'm sorry, Luke. We had planned to... You can't help but let out a long sigh, subconsciously fidgeting with your fingers.
仕事なら仕方ないって。俺だってしょっちゅう呼び出されてるだろ。お互い大変だな。
He gently strokes the top of your head, then softly takes your hand, stirring a deep sense of attachment in you.
ほら、すぐにフライトの時間なんだろ。手伝ってやるから、さっさと荷造りを済ませるぞ。
Although Luke can't help but feel disappointed, he stays calm, considerate of your emotions. On the street. Even though the suitcase wheels are silent, the lead hour amplifies every small sound. Luke pulls your suitcase and you walk by his side in silence. The wheels rolls over the edge of a floor tile, quietly setting the stone for the farewell.
あと5分でタクシーが来るから、このままここで待つか。
Okay. You stand by the roadside. The gentle, warm night breeze blows by, causing the loose ends of your hair to flutter.
本当に空港まで送らなくていいのか？
Yes, I'm sure. It's still early and the airport is really far. Plus, it will be really late by the time you get back if you do. Luke turns around, taking your hand and pulling you a little closer.
眠くなったらちゃんと休めよ。無理して資料を読み込んでも効率悪いからな。
He stays still while putting the cap on your head. The white brim completely blocks your view for a moment. You want to look up at him, but his strength prevents you from doing so.
これがあれば寝癖もつかないだろ。
What a flimsy excuse. It's obvious he only said that because he was worried you would see the reluctance in his eyes. However, you let it slide. You hold onto the corners of his clothes with both hands, pulling the distance between you two closer once again. It's such a pity. I can't see your performance.
ツアーの日程はまだまだ残ってる。チャンスならいくらでもあるさ。最悪、録画で見るって手もあるしな。
But it's still not the same as being there in person.
そう、がっかりすんなって。本人がそばにいるんだから。お前が見たいって言うならいつでも見せてやるよ。
The sound of a vehicle approaches in the distance, as if signaling you to get ready to board, with the headlights flashing twice. The moment of parting approaches, and even this soft fleeting touch feels like a silent countdown.
お前と離れるのはどうしてこうも辛いんだろうな。
The last trace of his faint optimism fades away. You can hear the disappointment in Luke's voice.
仕事頑張れよ。時間ができたら連絡してくれ。
The car you booked slowly comes to a halt a few steps away from you. You check your watch. It's been exactly 5 minutes. The sound of the engine fills the empty street, and all you can do is keep nodding, at a loss for words. As you close the car door, it feels like you're waking from a dream, and you make a solemn promise to Luke. Luke, I'll definitely come to see your performance. Wait for me. Hotel. Oh, I really shouldn't have said that so lightly back then. Since parting with Luke, you've been swamped with commissions in Pinion this past month. Twice, you've already arranged with Luke to watch his tour, but in the end, you couldn't go to various reasons. Though he always says it's fine, he must be disappointed too. That's why he thinks of calling you like this, to give you as much of an immersive experience as he can. It's like a breeze passing through. You barely catch it before Luke's breathless voice mixed with loud applause and cheering comes through the phone.
おい、聞こえるか？今、一番いい音が聞ける場所で、スタッフさんにスマホを持ってもらってるんだけど。
Yes, very clearly. You're playing better and better, Luke.
そうか？ま、毎日練習してるからな。
He seems to have walked to a quiet corner, so silent that you can even hear the sound of his clothes brushing against the wall. He's probably holding two drumsticks in one hand, leaning his head slightly against the wall. Maybe he hasn't even had a chance to wipe the sweat from his forehead, and maybe the smile from hearing your compliments still lingers on his face. Time really flies. Your tour is almost over.
本当にな。2日後のポートタウンでの公演が最後なんて、正直信じられないよ。
2 days. That's exactly when my court session is scheduled. If it ends before the afternoon, I might just make it in time. You browse through flight options while calculating the chances of catching Luke's final tour show. Even though this is my first court session, it should be fine if I rush back overnight, right? Despite thinking this, you decide to keep your plan a secret from Luke for now. Maybe it's because you're worried something unexpected will come up and leave him disappointed again. Or perhaps that small coincidence from before has made Shelport a bit more special to you. All in all, I'll just treat this as a surprise for Luke. Live Music Club.
ポートタウン盛り上がってるか
A thunderous chorus of good erupts and the crowd surges forward, nearly pushing you out of the front row you'd fought so hard to secure. You are holding onto the DSLR camera and the bouquet you brought, adjusting your head and the mouths that have just been jostled out of place. I've covered up this much. Luke probably won't recognize me, even if I'm standing in the front row.
今のエフェメラルってトリオタファンまでいるの？
さすがは俺たちのエフェメラルすごい人気だな
It looks like your disguise is working perfectly. No one would ever guess you're just a beautiful office worker who rushed straight from court to catch a plane to Shelport. The stage lights aren't fully on yet, and though you can't quite make out Luke as he finishes the final sound check, you already feel like all the hassle of getting here is totally worth it.
準備はいいかそれじゃあテンション上げていこうぜ
The instant his voice fades, the drum beats kick in, and every light blazes to life. You spin against the brightness, but immediately catch sight of the person you've been longing to see. Even though you've watched so many of his performance videos, finally being here in person makes your heart flutter in a way that feels entirely new. He looks so at ease, so fully immersed that even the curve of his smile draws you in completely. So cool! You let go completely, but your heartfelt cheer is immediately drowned out by the crowd's enthusiastic screams. The performance goes on for a full 2 hours, and having watched Luke's videos so many times, you sing along the entire time. By the end, your voice feels even more hoarse than after a 5-hour court session. Encore! Encore! Even so, you join the crowd, calling for an encore with all your might. The band members soon return to the stage, but strangely, the mic stand that was in front of Sammy has now been moved over to the drum set.
え？ドラムの人が歌うってこと？
Amidst the excitement, some people start to comment on this change.
これまでドラムの人が歌ったことってあったっけ？
もしかしたら最終公演限定のサプライズかもね。
なるほど、それは楽しみだ。
Luke clears his throat softly, his amplified voice quieting the entire crowd. The voice, which you had long been accustomed to, somehow sounds a little unfamiliar now, whether it's due to the distance or something else.
それでは聞いてください。スターバースト。
初めて聞くタイトルだけど。
そうだ、そうに決まってる。正真正銘の新曲だ。
そう、来てよかった。
Compared to the excited fans nearby, his voice is so calm that it sounds a little shaky. He is probably feeling nervous. But soon enough, Luke finds his rhythm and his voice fills the whole venue. You look at him, wanting to take a photo, but also afraid that if you look away for even a moment, you'll miss something. Starburst is a fitting and perfect name. In the still, silent darkness, countless stars are being born. It's the greatest firework display in the universe. He hasn't said anything yet, but you already understand. It's a firework for you. The performance finally ends. Taking advantage of the living crowd, you quietly move closer to the side of the stage where Luke is. The venue quickly quiets down and you are still immersed in wondering what Luke's reaction will be when he sees you. You don't expect that. With so many staff members around, not a single one of them notices you sneaking around like this. It's honestly pretty strange. Luke. The loud burst of confetti drowns out your call to Luke, and before you can even react, the bouquet in your hand is whisked away. Somehow, the person who had just been tidying up the drum set is now at the front of the stage, pulling you close. The look of surprise you were expecting to see on his face is now on yours, while he simply flips the brim of your cap back, clearing the space between you two. A powerful spotlight engulfs you both, and when you come to, you realize the vast field is now empty, leaving only the two of you. You pull down your mask, knowing all those extra disguises are now pointless. What's going on? The confetti! And where did everyone else go? Wait, you knew I was here all along? Even someone slow on the uptake should realize by now that this whole thing was all part of Luke's plan.
紙吹雪は花束のお礼だ。ありがとな。
You are so surprised that questions keep popping out of your mouth, while Luke, with a smile on his face, answers them one by one.
ちなみに、用意したのは河野だ。俺に大きな借りがあるんだと。
Luke suddenly falls silent, lowering his head. You think he's about to do something, but after a moment, he simply plants a gentle kiss on your forehead. Then comes his slightly resigned voice.
見つかりたくなかったんなら、なんで俺のキャップなんてかぶってんだよ。おかげで気づかないふりをするのが大変だった。
Only now do you remember that this cap is the one Luke put you on back then. Oh my, no matter how careful I am, something always slips through.
まあ、これはこれで嬉しかったけどな。なんなら、嬉しすぎてミスるとこだったし。
Good thing you didn't. After all, you're Luke.
好きなやつの前でダサいとこは見せられないからな。
He lowers his head even more, nearly touching your nose.
もう、来られないかと思ってた。
This is your final tour show. How could I not be here? Besides, I felt the photos you sent me weren't quite charming enough, so I had to come in person. You shake your camera, suddenly remembering you still haven't checked the final look of the photos you took before. After all, trying to sing along and take photos of Luke at the same time is a bit challenging for a rookie fan like you. Alright, the photos. Would you like to see?
いや、いい。
Luke doesn't let you lower the camera. His hand, once resting lightly on the brim of his head, presses gently, drawing you closer.
どう取れたかなんてどうでもいい。お前さえいてくれたら。
For a moment, you both fall silent. After all this time apart, just quietly looking at each other brings comfort.
今、何考えてる？
I'm thinking about how wonderful it is to have the brightest star on the horizon now fallen before me. On the street, a thin veil of night mist lingers over the early morning streets, occasionally stirred by passing cars or pedestrians, revealing its contours more clearly with each disturbance.
本当にもう行くのか？
It hasn't been long since you've reunited with each other, and now you're about to part again. It's a similar scene to the one a month ago, except this time Luke tightly holds your hand and speaks with certainty. Yeah, I have another meeting at 10 a.m.
そっか。
Luke lowers his eyes and shakes the hand you are holding. Look, actually, the reason why I didn't tell you in advance today was not because I was afraid I might miss the chance and disappoint you, but also because I didn't want to repeat the mistake we made before.
前みたいに？どういう意味だ？
Do you remember how you once mentioned that Ephemera's first commercial performance was held here? I was also in Shopot at that time. Luke looks at you with disbelief.
それって、あの時のライブを見てたってことか？
Yeah, weren't you performing in a square? That day, I made a small mistake at work. Although it didn't have serious consequences, I still felt a bit guilty, so I went out alone to clear my head. On this summer night, the warm breeze carries a languid hiss, wrapping everything in drowsy stillness, as if self-blame quietly festers. A sudden wave of passionate screams erupts from the distant crowd. The deep and dominant sound of the drums can be heard, as if driven by something, or perhaps just needing something to distract you from everything. Despite so many people being crowded together, making it look hot and suffocating, you continue to walk over. But even though I went, there were just too many people at the time, and it was almost impossible to get to the front row. By the time I finally managed to see the people on stage clearly, the band from the previous performance, which was you guys, had already left.
そうだったのか。
Who would have thought that during those 8 years you and Luke were apart, that moment was the closest you ever got to each other as you gazed across the crowd, unknowingly connected. His gaze might have brushed past the corner you were at some point, and you also look up, searching for the source of the drum beats. Your eyes unwittingly met, but only for a fleeting moment. Back then, when we were watching performance videos at home, I felt something oddly familiar. Then, on the next day when I heard you drumming at the studio, I got even more puzzled. I asked Sammy and confirmed that it had really happened.
あの時に分かってたんなら、どうして俺にも教えてくれなかったんだ？
I thought it was merely a small matter, and mentioning it might only deepen our regrets. There are already enough things beyond our control. Why bring up something that happened so long ago? A brief honk from a car interrupts your conversation. The car to take you to the airport has arrived. You climb into the back seat, ask the driver to wait a bit longer, and signal for Lu to come a little closer. He leans down slightly, resting one hand on the top of the car window, moving a little closer. But now I've changed my mind. The chin on his chest sways slightly with his movement, and you grab it with one hand. Even though we're so close right now, I still long for us to be even closer. Perhaps this story will add some miraculous coincidences for us, just like
まるで運命の歯車みたいに。かなら、あの時のすれ違いはすれ違いじゃなく、神がそう導いたように、ずっと前から引き寄せられていただけで、これまでの遠回りも全部、お前に出会うためのものだったんだな。
Luke holds your hand, his fingers slipping between yours, unsure of whether to hold hands or to get a little closer.
けど、だとしたらバグだろ。もっと近づきたいのに、離れなきゃならないなんて。
He pulls you up a little more, holding your hand.
家で待ってる。早く帰ってこいよ。
Because there are others around, he speaks very softly in your ear. Okay. In the rearview mirror, Luke's figure grows smaller and smaller until you can no longer see him, but you still feel like he hasn't left that street corner. Anonymous farewells happen at every corner of the city, at every moment. But all paths of farewell may only be guiding you toward meeting him again. Home. Summer always arrives with an undeniable intensity. Though the house remains comfortably cool, the lingering warmth of the bay window glass serves as a gentle yet vivid reminder of the early summer's embrace. Are these all the photos? After returning from Pinion, the first thing you and Luke do is print all the photos you took for him back then. Taking advantage of this rare day off, you both hole up at home to see if there are any good photos to decorate the corner of the stairs.
どうかしたか？
I thought I took a lot of them, but it turns out there are only a dozen or so. It's just like I thought. I can't watch the performance and take photos at the same time after all. And of these dozen or so photos, half of them are unusable because of the lighting and the composition are terrible. Why was I even trying to capture in this one? This is a wasted shot. Why did you even practice? The photos are not only dark, but many excited bystanders are also caught in the frame, though they are just shadows. Although the main character is deeply focused on playing the drums, you've unfortunately captured him with his eyes closed, which makes it look somewhat comical.
別にそこまでひどくないだろう。ほら、どれもよく撮れてるじゃんか。いっそ全部飾ったらどうだ？
This is definitely the work of filters, and you're a bit at a loss when he lies to you with such a straight face. Which one is your favorite? You hold all the photos and hand them to Luke, who wraps his arms around you from behind, resting his head on your shoulder. As he flips through the photos, he occasionally pulls you a little closer.
どれもいいけど、一番はこれかな。
He picks the one that's truly the best photo you took, where his entranced expression and the spotlight that perfectly envelops him are captured beautifully. This is the one I took during your encore performance. It's a great shot.
よく撮れてるからだけじゃないぞ。俺がこれを気に入ったのは、もう二度と撮れない写真だからだ。他のはまだ演奏するかもしれないけど、スターバーストはこれっきりだからな。もともとアンコールは別の曲をやる予定だったし、ボーカルの担当も俺じゃない。会場でお前を見かけたから、急遽河野と相談してスターバーストを歌うことになったんだ。
But why won't you perform it again in the future?
そんなのお前のために書いたもんだからに決まってるだろ。どれだけ観客がいようが関係ない。 お前だけにスターバーストを届けて、その意味を理解してほしかったんだ。
He nuzzles your cheek with a hint of helplessness, showing his dissatisfaction with your lack of understanding. But what he doesn't know is that, in fact, you do understand. How could you not? The lyrics of that song includes your name after all. But you decide not to tell him today. You'll save it as a spoiler for some future moment. More importantly, at this moment, you have something else you'd rather do compared to this. So you stop talking and turn to wrap your arms around his neck.
いや、どうした？ドラムの練習中で気づかなくて。って、もうこんな時間か。そろそろ帰らないとな。今日は調子が良くて、なんとなくスターバーストを演奏してみたら、前よりうまく叩けてさ。多分心境の変化のせいかもな。あの時はミスるのが怖くて、思い切りやれなかったし。どうやって作ったか知りたい？別に特別なことは何も。お前の曲を書きたいってツアーの最初から思ってたけど、なかなか浮かばなくて。そんなある日、確か夜だったかな。お前が電話に出なかったことがあったろ？まだ仕事が終わってなかったにしろ、別の理由にしろ、邪魔をしないようかけ直さずに、お前が折り返してくるまで、いろいろと話題を考えててさ。昼飯の弁当がまずかったとか、スタジオでの練習中に窓辺で猫を見たとか。そしたら、全然どうでもいいことなのに、話す人がいるってだけで大切に思えたんだ。それで気づいたら、どこからともなく自然と歌詞やメロディーが浮かんできたってわけだ。お前はこの曲を聴いたとき、どんな風に思った？あ、帰ったら聞かせるから、その時にはちゃんと教えろよ。いいか？